Hi guys, welcome to MJ Pro YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew this beautiful pencil skirt you see here using the hip allocation method with a full lining. It is so detailed, beginner friendly and very easy to understand. So if you want to learn something new today, please watch to the end. And if today is your first time on this channel, please click on the subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And also don't forget to drop a like and a comment. So here I have my fabric folded into two and I'll be cutting the front of the skirt first. When folding your fabric, you'll be folding using the biggest part of the body, which is your hip divided by 4 plus your sewing allowance. And also I'll be cutting my lining and the main fabric at the same time because this method is easier and faster for me. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to draw a straight horizontal line at the top of my fabric this way. This line I'm drawing at this point is going to serve as my waistline. So I'm going to go ahead to draw it like you see me doing in the video. After drawing the line, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to insert my waist circumference measurement on that line here. So because I'm making a dartless pencil skirt, what I'll be doing is just to insert my waist divided by 4. So my waist divided by 4 is 7.5. Next, I'll go ahead to insert my vertical measurement. So this skirt I'm making is for a pencil gown. So I'll be starting my measurement from my half length, which is 17 inch. But if you are making a normal pencil skirt, you'll be starting from 1. That is, you'll be taking your full skirt length at this point. So what I'm going to go ahead to do now is to insert my waist to hip depth measurement. So I'm going to go ahead to mark it at this point. After marking it at this point, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to measure the full length of the gown I'm making. So if you're making a skirt, you go ahead to insert the full length of the skirt with a sewing allowance of 1 inch. After marking the full length, I'll go ahead to draw a straight horizontal line at that point with my ruler like this. So after marking the full length, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to also draw a straight horizontal line at this point. That is my hip depth line. I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight horizontal line like this. So this line is going to serve as my hip depth line. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to insert my hip measurement. So because I am making a dartless pencil skirt, I'll be using the hip allocation method, meaning that I'm not going to be dividing my hip by 4 like we normally do. I'm going to be allocating a portion to the front hip and a portion to the back hip. And in doing that, the first thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to divide my hip by 2. So my hip is 39 divided by 2, which is 19.5. So this is what I'll be using to do my calculation. So first I'm going to calculate for the front. So for the front hip, I'm going to be minusing 1.5 from this 19.5. So I'm going to go ahead to minus 1.5 from this 19.5, which is going to give me 18 inch. So for the front, I'm going to be using 18 inch for the front hip. Then for the back, this 1.5 I minus from the front, I'm going to be taking it to the back. So I'm going to be having 19.5 plus 1.5, which is going to give me 21 inch. So this is what I'll be using for the front, while I'll be using 21 for the back. So because I'm cutting the front on fold, I'll be dividing this 18 by 2, which is going to give me 9 inch. So now what I'm going to be inserting on this hip depth line is going to be this 9 inch I have here. I hope this is understood. So I'm going to go ahead now to insert the 9 inch on my hip depth line, after which I'll go ahead to mark it. Doing this, next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to connect the waist to the hip depth using the curved part of my ruler like this. So this is what we are going to be having. Next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to work on the hem of the skirt. So because I'm making a pencil skirt, what I'm going to go ahead to do is to divide my hip by 4. Then I'll go ahead to minus 1.5 inch or 2 inch, depending on how pencil you want it to be. Or you can go ahead to insert whatever you have on your waistline on the hemline. So what I'm going to go ahead to do now is to divide my hip by 4. So my hip divided by 4 is 9.75. So I'm going to go ahead to minus 1.5 inch from that 9.75, which is going to give me 8.25. So I'm going to go ahead to mark the 8.25 on the hemline like this. So after marking this point, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to insert my waist to knee measurement. So what you'll be doing is to measure from your waist to 2 inches above the knee. You don't insert your waist to your knee measurement directly because you will need a little ease to walk freely. So I'm going to go ahead to measure my waist to 2 inches above the knee and mark. After marking, I'll go ahead to draw a straight horizontal line with my ruler like this. So after marking the line, I'm going to go ahead to insert the same thing I insert at the hemline, which is 8.25. So whatever you insert at the hemline, you'll be inserting the same thing on the waist to knee measurement. Next, I'm going to go ahead to connect my hip depth line to the knee using my ruler like this. After connecting this part, I'm also going to go ahead to connect the knee to the hem using a straight line with my ruler like this. So after connecting the side together, the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to add my seam allowance of 1.5 inch on the side like this. So I'm going to go ahead to mark it on the hemline, on the knee line, on the hip depth line, and also on the waist, after which I'll connect the point together with my ruler like this. So basically this is what the front of the skirt is going to look like. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut it out. So just watch what I'm doing and follow the same process. So this is what the front of the skirt is going to look like. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to work on the hem. So I want my fabric to be showing on the inner part of the skirt. So in doing that, I'm going to go ahead to fold it over this way. So this line here is where my full length stop. I'm going to be folding it over this way because I want my lining to start showing from where the folding stop. Next, I will fold it over again. Then I'll go ahead to cut off this lining I have behind. So it is so simple. So I want the lining to start from where this folding stop. That is why I'm using this process. I'm going to go ahead to fold it like this first. This is where the full length stop. So this part is like the allowance. So I'll fold this over like this first. Then I'll go ahead to fold it again. After folding it again, I'm going to go ahead to cut the lining behind because I want this fabric to overlap on the inner part. So I'm just going to go ahead to cut off the lining behind now, and then I'll go ahead to show you what it is going to look like after it is being sewn. So this is what we are going to be having. So this is what you should have after sewing the lining to the main fabric. With this, the lining is not going to come out when the skirt is being worn. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut the back of the skirt. So here I have my fabric folded for the back. Then the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to place the front on the skirt this way, leaving at least 3 inches on this other part. So the side for the front and the back are the same. The only difference is the hip allocation method we'll be doing, and we'll just be adding the 1.5 inch we took away from the front to the hip depth line. So I'm going to be placing the front on the back this way, after which I'll go ahead to secure it with my pins. So after securing it with my pin, this is what we are going to be having. So this is the easiest method to use to cut the back. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to extend my hip depth line to the other side. So after extending it, I'm going to go ahead to insert the 1.5 inch I took from the front to this part this way, and I'll go ahead to mark. So the side for the front and the back is the same. The difference is just the hip allocation on the center back. Next, I'll connect the waist to the 1.5 inch point I just marked using the curved part of my ruler like this. So So after connecting it to the waist, the next I'm going to go ahead to do is to measure 6 inch from my hip depth line. So I'm going to go ahead to measure 6 inch away from my hip depth line this way. Then I'll go ahead to mark. After marking it, I'm going to go ahead to draw a curve to that point using the curved part of my ruler. So I'm drawing this line to meet with the center front of the skirt. So this is what the back of the skirt is going to look like. So this is the curve for the hip allocation method. With this, you are going to be having this nice shape at the back of your skirt after sewing the skirt. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to confirm my measurement. So for the back, I'm supposed to get 21 inch. So when you measure it, what I have here is 21 inch, which means I am correct. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to mark my zipper allowance of 1.5 inch on the waistline, on the hip depth line, and also at this point and down to the hem. After marking it, I'm going to go ahead to connect the point together with my ruler like you see me doing in the video. So this is what the back of the skirt is going to look like. So when fixing your zip, make sure you follow this curve at the back so that you will get the nice shape behind. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to cut it out. So after cutting, this is what the back is going to look like. So when making the curve on the center back, make sure it's not too curvy so that the boss will fit in properly when the skirt is being worn. The next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to trim the hem of the skirt so that the front and the back of the skirt will be equal. So it is good you place the front on the back when cutting so that you're going to be having equal pieces when you are sewing the skirt together. So after trimming the hem, the next I'm going to go ahead to do is to reduce the lining like I did for the front. So because I've already done it on the front part, it's going to be much easier to do it for the back. So what I'll just go ahead to do is to fold in my back fabric this way, then I'll place my front lining on it, then I'll go ahead to trim it off. So it's going to be much easier for the back because I've already done everything for the front. So I'm going to go ahead to trim it off, and this process is going to help you to have the same length of lining and the same length of fabric so that when sewing you will not have any shortage. So this is what it is going to look like. So I'm going to be turning it over for you to see what the back part is going to look like. So when you fold it in this way, you're going to be having something like this on the inner part of the skirt. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to attach the lining to the main fabric. So I'll go ahead to separate the front from the back of the skirt like you see me doing in the video. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead to join the lining to the main fabric. So I'll be placing my lining on my fabric this way, making sure that the lining is facing the good face of my fabric. After which I'll go over my sewing machine to close up the hem and the sides of the skirt. So when closing up the hem and the side of the skirt, I'm going to be starting from the lower part of the skirt. After closing up the lower part of the skirt, you pull the lining upward to meet with the waistline of your main fabric. Then you go ahead to start sewing the sides of the skirt. So it is very important you start sewing from the lower part, because if you start from the upper part, you are going to be having some shortage because the fabric and the main lining are not equal. So you start sewing from the hem. After closing up the hem, you go ahead to pull the lining upward to meet with the waistline of the main fabric. Then you go ahead to close up the side. So I'll quickly go over my sewing machine to do this, and I'll be doing the same thing for my back block also, after which I'll come back to show you what to do next. So after fixing my lining to my main fabric, this is what it is going to look like. This is what the good face is going to look like, and this is what the wrong part of the skirt is going to look like. So this is what we've been trying to achieve. And I also went ahead to do the same thing for the back block of the skirt. I've added the lining to the back block of the skirt, and this is what the wrong part of the skirt looks like. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do now is to work on the back block of the skirt, and in doing that I'm going to go over my sewing machine to close up the center back. So this part with the curve is the center back, so please make sure you take note of the center back because it can be confusing sometimes. Next I'm going to go ahead to place the two pieces of the back together like this, after which I'll go over my sewing machine to close up the center back. I'll also be inserting my zipper to the center back, then I'm going to go ahead to close up this lower part down to where my slit is going to be stopping. So when fixing your zipper, make sure you follow the curve on the back of the skirt when fixing the zipper. So I'm going to quickly go over my sewing machine to do this, then I'll come back to show you what it looks like. So I've gone ahead to attach my zipper to the skirt, and this is what it looks like. So we are having this effect here because of the hip allocation method we did, and here I have my sleeve. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do is to finish up the sleeve, and when finishing up the sleeve, what I use most time is my hemming gum. I'm going to go ahead to insert my hemming gum to it this way. So I'll iron it to achieve this fold, then I'll place my hemming gum in between this way, then I'll use my pressing iron to gum the two pieces together, and I'll be doing the same thing for the other part also. So after fixing your hemming gum, you can go ahead to tag it with your sewing machine to secure it more. So this is going to be all for the slit. The next you are going to go ahead to do now is to join the front of the skirt to the back. So you are going to be placing it this way, making sure that the good face is facing each other. Then you go over your sewing machine to close up the side using the sewing allowance you left while drafting the skirt. You'll be doing the same thing for the other side also, after which you go ahead to attach your waistband to the skirt. So I'll not be showing you how to do all this because I am making a gown. So what I'll be doing is to attach my upper bodice to the skirt part. I've gone ahead to draft this bustier already, and I have a detailed video on how to draft this bustier up on the channel. You can go ahead to check it out to see how I made this lovely bustier. So I'm going to go ahead to attach the bustier to this skirt, after which I'll come back to show you what it looks like. So after attaching the skirt to the upper body, this is what it is going to look like. As you can see, it's looking so beautiful and very fitted, and I have a lovely shape behind the skirt, so you can go ahead to try yours. So if this video was helpful to you, please don't forget to drop a like and a comment, and if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button and also on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next tutorial.